Well, good evening, everybody. How's everybody doing then? Are you all good? I can't hear you. Are you all good? There we go. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. And if you're not good, I'm so sorry you're not feeling well. You know, that's just the way it is. We are the Cate Park Band, and we are mostly a summer band, and it is what we call a pickup band, meaning anybody who comes gets to play here, so we do our rehearsal, and then we do our concert starting at 8 o'clock. So it's 8 o'clock, and so we're going to start our concert. We will start it in the way that we usually do here, which is by the singing of the national anthem. I have it on good authority that some of you are not singing, and I gotta tell you, we need you singing. Okay? Stand for me, please. The national anthem. All right, we're going to start you off with a march, but here's the thing is I need a conductor. This is the one piece where I get to not conduct. I have an audience come up, and so I'm looking for an audience member to decide to come up and do some conducting. Who has wanted to do this all their life? Or who is drunk enough that, yeah, come on up. Ladies and gentlemen, our next conductor, Betty Frazier. That was the Military Escort March by Harold Bennett. And we're going to take you into an Alan Silvestri march. Alan Silvestri writes a lot of film scores, and this is the Captain America March. Well, this is our last Wednesday night concert. We actually are going to be doing one more event, and that is going to be this coming Sunday at 1 o'clock. Last winter, we lost one of our members who was a real mover and shaker. Claudia was librarian. She was chief lugger with Tom, her husband, who is back here on the percussion. And we really miss her. We really miss her. We miss how much she did, and learning more and more every week how much she did, which was just amazing. Anyway, at 1 o'clock on Sunday, we're going to be having a memorial concert for Claudia Bissett. And it, of course, is going to be on the bandstand, and anybody who is here is more than welcome to come and just have a seat. There will be other musicians from other bands coming to join us. I know there are a couple of people coming from Claudia's Flute Choir in Nashua, and a couple of people coming from the Seacoast Wind Symphony, based down in Rochester, right? Dover? I don't know. Okay. Anyway, so there will be, I'm hoping that we're going to have just so many band members that we can't stay all on the bandstand, and I think it's going to be pretty good. But at any rate, it will be a tribute to Claudia, and you are welcome. The next piece we're going to do is one that she bought for us, and it's called Salute to the Armed Forces. And those of you who have been around a little know that we'll be doing the Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines, Space Force, and Coast Guard. And if you are a veteran of one of those services, or if you are currently in one of those services and you hear your service hymn, we invite you to stand up and be recognized for your gift to us. Thank you. A salute to the armed forces. We heard the Captain America March of Alan Silvestri, and we're going to do a little John Williams now. John Williams, how many has he done? I have no idea how many films he's done, but it's a lot. And we're going to hear the Raiders of the Lost Ark March, Midway March, the Throne Room, and Olympic Spirit. The Throne Room is, of course, from Star Wars, and Olympic Spirit is from the Olympics. All right, we've done enough marches for now. We'll do one more later on. But now we're going to get into a little bit of 60s surfer rock. We're going to do a little Louie Louie. Change it up a little bit. Sing along if you wish. Whoever knows the words. Do we know the words? I don't know. We're going to give you a Duke Ellington song now from Sophisticated Ladies, which was a collection of Duke Ellington songs made into a musical. And this is called Caravan. And it's kind of interesting because it's got a Latin beat, and then goes to a swing beat, and then goes to a Latin beat. It's really kind of fun. Caravan. So I can't claim to have like a premonition about this, but a couple of weeks ago, we took out a piece that hadn't been in the folders for quite some time, and didn't get a chance to do it a couple of weeks ago because it rained, and so we're going to do it tonight. And wouldn't you know, this person is in the news like yesterday and today, big time, for getting engaged. Taylor Swift got engaged. Aww. Aww. So we're going to. It wasn't designed in you know. It wasn't. I didn't program it because of that. I programmed it before that. So this is Taylor Swift, Eras. Well, the nip of fall is actually in the air this evening. I actually wore my suit because I wanted to be warm. Anyway, we're going to do September now. It's one of these that we do at the end of August every year. So get up and dance to some Earth, Wind, and Fire, or, dance in your seats or whatever. It was back in the mid-1980s, I think, so that makes it about 40 years ago, that Ken Burns put out his Civil War series. And there was the theme from it by a guy by the name of Jay Ungar, and the theme is called Ashokan Farewell. And we're going to kind of get into the closing down the season mode at this point. And so we're going to do, first of all, the Ashokan Farewell, wishing you, after we're finished, to have a wonderful, wonderful season, and see you back here in late June. All right, raise your hand if you ever stayed up close to midnight watching Dick Clark. Yeah, that's right. The American Bandstand and New Year's Eve, and he made a living out of it, and it was amazing. We're going to give you a salute to Dick Clark that we always do at the end of the year, because at the end of the year we hearken to New Year's Eve. And should old acquaintance be forgot, you being the acquaintances, though I'm not saying you're old, and so again, it's in the farewell theme. So this is a whole bunch of songs that Dick Clark introduced or had on his show, and ending with Auld Lang Syne. do remember that we've got our event on Sunday, the memorial concert for Claudia Bissett. That's at 1 p.m. We'll be gathering here at about 12:30 or so, and if you care to come on down, that would be fun. And other than that, this is it for another season. You guys have been wonderful. Thank you so very much for all being out there, and a really hearty thank you to the band. They're all volunteer. Thank you to the band. Yeah, band. Yeah, band. All right. Well, we're gonna tune you out with John Philip Sousa's "Stars and Stripes Forever."
Yeah, that one.